Not too bad, not too bad actually. Ready for some more challenges, some more gaming. I'm actually more excited about this year than probably any of the others. With Mythic and PewPew coming up here, I think it's actually going to be quite a nice, challenging game, and it's something nice to come off of those type of events and go straight back into the online and carry on with those shields. Yeah, that's exactly the process. I guess that's what's much more, let's say, promising for this year's CS rather than last year, with the opportunity, obviously, to get into Masters. And I think that there's a large pool of players out there that are still yet to be even identified, as you were mentioning, obviously, for those top tiers. And well, as we saw, I mean, even in this recent event, we had the situation of a second team coming out from VNR, and they made it through the cuts, and XTC weren't actually able to play in the top eight, and that's already showing some amazing skill and ability from those players to jump up a league. We're always referring to the difference in the teams, almost in skill and overall ability, and generally based on the number of hours they practice as well, which is the availability of time in the top four versus the bottom four in the top eight, and then thereafter. So, I mean, we've got some really good players and a lot of potential that are still to come through the ranks. Yeah, that's it. And being able to have more opportunities and more methods to get into these top tiers is where it's going to start getting into that top 10. And I must admit, if even from this weekend, I mean, we a lot of people would have predicted a Bravado Energy final as well, especially from the Metal State event, a bit of a grudge match maybe. But in the end of the day, it was a great idea to have all these additional comps that you can filter through the ranks and get into that opportunity. And a lot of players are being noticed. I mean, even Massacre getting picked in this year in a permanent position for Flipside. That was something that obviously wasn't seen about 6 or 8 months ago. Yeah, I love that. I love the fact that they are making use of the new map pool. Obviously, Dust 2, one of the and most favorite map, depending on the situation, I guess. And this Inferno coming back into play, and now you obviously have Nuke. Additionally, if you have a look at that map pool from a year ago, it's a completely different story. Or been a year and a half. It's something that wouldn't have seen the prospects of people even seeing Inferno coming back with the point of actually enjoy it. And it is a really skill-based and timing-based map. I mean, when it comes down to these CT rotations with the way that you can get into the sites, you really don't want to be playing too easily on a retake ability, and you don't want to over rotate on a wrong time in the map, because that can really cost you a lot of almost frustration as well, and something in the lines of having to force yourself to change up something that doesn't necessarily need to change, just change the timing. And it's going to be a challenging one at that, and quite a bit of a difficult road as well. They're going to have a lot of resistance to try and get in there. There's a lot to play for, and that's straight into this. Nate doing quite a bit of damage there in the middle and just making sure the controller's down. Spam gets one on Evan, and that is a nice opening pick there for Mythic. Like I said, they shouldn't really be battling this that easily after that trade, and now there's a bit of a problem as 4-on-4 forcing that to split. Yeah, there was often just that non-rotating play until the last moment, but the retake on this is a little bit more, I'd say, just a little bit more challenging now with just the way that things have opened up. And yeah, as we move in, Pew, we're going to go straight across, and Sixter does notice them out, but it's not really quick enough as he can't do much. But Swaz is going to go into a pick and get at least a little bit of advantage. But check at this, really nicely rotated in time and not moving that anchor until necessary. Yeah, that's the thing. It's also making sure that exactly like you say, you test out your practices, but rather get yourself a decent default just to counter back onto. Because if something doesn't work, Inferno is one of those maps that you can try sometimes. You're actually trying multiple things, but you don't realize that you're calling them the same thing. So you can almost lose ideas very quickly in this map, and you need to make sure that you know that you're not over peaking or doubling up in the wrong time. Synthetic's going to do a nice little opening trade, and a third, very nicely done, and with a dink on top of that. Limbs on 5 HP. So that middle has been completely opened up with his SMGs. Another one goes down, and Spam helps him out. And while Mythic, as you're saying, the favored, more favored in this matchup, showing their stuff. A nice slow play. I think that if it comes down to the point that you are able to buy up when you've got some SMGs against you because of the fact that you're buying in the third round, it's really important to make sure that you get your moves right. Don't peek alone. Don't lose the advantage you've created, or almost the disconnection that you can create between the CT players. But yeah, these late players are generally, in my mind, a lot more B based with the fact that you can smoke off one area. But when that happens and you don't timing that well, it's just something that doesn't end up gelling, and you lose a couple of players way too quickly. Yeah, well played by them, making sure that they got that double movements going at the same time. It was really well executed, and they got the smoke perfect as well, making sure they cut the CT2 players in half, and moving obviously at the same time into middle. It's nice and constructive, and a very well known go-to if you want to create as much havoc and making sure the rotations don't come until they're really late, and working well as long as you can make sure the one's down, and that's why, as we were saying earlier, that four versus four gives such an advantage to the terrorists. Yeah, it worked well for Pew to be able to do that. So I think that Mythic have got the good stance here, just making sure that they keep those right angles. But they must be careful not to peek too early because it can be a problematic situation where you're going to get one-shotted or a little thing quick on. There it is, exactly. Slobber pushing him unexpectedly, didn't see them on the corner, and now you're already at a disadvantage, forcing your anchor player to be alone. Yeah, you can see they've put some time into this map. I mean, with those perfectly timed flashes getting into the sights at the exact right time. I mean, they really had a few seconds to spare there, and the move didn't look wonky at all. So it was nicely executed, and same as the previous round. And Mythic are going to have to make sure that they really get their bars right here if they're going to have to force themselves into a save after save. Yeah. And on these rounds, you have to time it perfectly, or you have to be able to force that double look angle, as I've always referred to, and just making sure that the players aren't able to look at the same key player as the other one that's getting shot at. So it really is important to be able to synchronize that. And when you're on these pistols, you really want to get up close and personal. And Pure are just making sure that they do proper work of this. They've already lost two guns, so they don't want to lose one more, well, especially not that AWP. Yeah, an important pick there as well. They're not allowing the T's to just run around the map with all five alive, and especially that AWP that in the main AWPer's hands, obviously. And you don't want to have that scenario that you're forcing yourself to do these extra explorings to like exactly like that in apps. In the end of the day, if you lose a player like Limbs in apps and your players are so split apart, it's really difficult to catch up. And yeah, so it's important obviously that Mythic does get that pick, but be careful, yeah, not to lose an early player thereafter. Yeah, and just as you were saying earlier, that with the advantage of having T's already with with the utility usage, I mean, if they aren't careful, they're going to really run out of options on the opposite side if they don't use them early. So, like they did now, they did really well. They held back. They made sure that it was a point that they were almost tunneled into the banana area, and then held it out. Yeah, that was very unnecessary, I think, at this point. I mean, they hadn't got their early pick that they got the previous round, and they still ended up not winning that round. And oh, Nuke, I'm going to return it though. So Mythic just doubling it up and making sure that at least middle's covered in most angles, and those flames are really going to be able to hold them back, which is important. Obviously, you want to make sure that you're pushing them all the way down. I mean, the clock's already at 28 seconds. They had such a good round last round to be able to get into sight with three, but they didn't finish it off. So keep it at that and maintain that position you're holding. Yeah, I am. I am. I'll just continue this 100%. The crosses are working for Mythic. It's really important. Obviously, they're keeping this. I mean, Pew are leaving it to the last minute, and as I was saying earlier, that they really timed it well and were able to get into sight without needing to stress about it, and it didn't really look wonky at all. But as soon as there is a little bit of a wobble and they aren't getting that initial pick, it's really important that they are trying to get into sight with at least 15, 20 seconds more than that, because running it down to the last 10, you lose your front player, you haven't got that early pick, you've had somebody that's already gone through smoke, unfortunately, without having any follow-up, and yeah, it's just not something that'll work too many rounds in a row. This setup in middle again, rather bunched up, but as necessary to crowd around that AWP as it can do whatever it can just to maybe open a piece up in this map and force Mythic into position where they're having that 2-2 split. And obviously, as we know, getting up in the face of pistols and not knowing where they are in sight, if you get land a nice deagle shot, get one across to that library area, it really can cause a lot of havoc. But this nice cross from Synthetics, very patient, gets the bomb down already, and Slobber coming out in front. I'm not quite sure what the idea was to push the bomb first to get the advantage. Then there we go, Spam following it up, and the hold and the cross from Mythic is really working well. Evan getting one of those completely flashed out scenarios and just ending up at the right points. It's so critical to keep that crosshair at head heights. We saw it a couple of times this weekend actually on one of those top tier sides, just losing one or two aim duels based purely on their positioning on the crosshair. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this works out. Yeah, structure is important, especially if you've got yourself a target on what you want to get as teas. I mean, you're 3 out of 8. It's not bad by any means if you're going to end up on 6 or 7, and you haven't then lost all hope and any worry. From just your general day's play, you might have a scenario that your CT is just going to be more set up and ready in the beginning on your first map and of the day, and just of the evening in this case, and just make sure that you're able to test that out and not have any worries about it. So, Pew, like you say, must take it round by round. Just get one in here, get another one in there, break the economy of Mythic, and you're going to get two in a row at the end. And then you can really start to force something, maybe get a Tech 9 rush going, because they really have taken this slow and constructed as this is. Yeah, it's going to cause quite a bit of a problem if you can't find that at least that one initial pick. Because when they're getting into that site and they're trying to break those crosses, it really isn't working. I mean, look, they're going to come into circumstances, when things are working, things are working. They're not, then it's going to be a scenario of those doubles coming in just at the right push. I mean, completely blinded out, but the second he pushed through the smoke, nobody really there to pre-fire it, nobody checking out the right positions, and he takes down two, and that's when the things are not going to work. You're going to get more and more scenarios you're going to identify where there's just situations of luck or additional advantage that could just flow in the opposite way. So, yeah, Pew needs to just hold a bit back, sense what they want to do, and then just execute and not worry about what happened previously. Yeah, it really is important, and that if you can keep that confusion or the element of doubt as to where you're going to come from, that brilliantly executed round. I think it was the fourth round when they're executed through middle and into B at the same time. I mean, Mythic couldn't rotate the last two players, so that slow play works nicely for them. If they get that initial pick, it's even better off. But when it comes down to it, they need to just resort to something that they know has already worked and really will force 1 to 2 players minimum onto the A side to remain, and then you're going to find yourself with 2 or 3 max. And if it isn't a situation where somebody peeks through the smoke and gets another double, then it's going to be something that you could have more success on and just be able to push the players out. Maybe land your mollies in a better area. Make sure you're pushing them into the site or completely away, so you can get 5 in, 5 out, and make sure you're guarding it properly. Yeah, no, that's exactly it. I mean, there's no way that you can come entering into a cup not believing you can win. Don't get me wrong, you have a bottom maybe target goal that you don't want to be worse off in, and sometimes it isn't even spoken about. It's just that mental image that people don't want to place a certain position, or they don't want to be eliminated before a certain round. And I think in this case, if you can make it to a final and you can play against Bravado on any day, things can go wrong at the worst ways for other teams. And on any other day, you can also have the best game you've ever had, landing things that never normally land. And it's just the way that things can work out. And it's all about hitting that hill right at the top, right at the end, and not peaking too early, especially that obviously you've been playing now throughout the year. This is the second time in this type of cup. And I think that you also need to learn from losing, no matter what happens. If it's against the medium team in your mind, or versus the best team in the world in your mind, somebody you never thought you could beat, or somebody that you are casually beating in scrims. I think it's important that you just motivate to go towards that finishing point and give it everything you got. And I think that there's definitely a chance for lots of people to learn a hell of a lot and get back into a almost new level of play. Yeah, that's it. I mean, in the end of the day, the best remembered matches are the biggest comebacks. And there's situations you've seen where teams that have never been in international stage just jump on international stage and win. And I mean, we've seen that happen, that even if it's a one game or one match, it's all about that one game and one match. And that's the thing, that the only way everybody that is playing in the top tiers and the top levels has gotten there is by losing and playing against the best and playing against people better than them, and also adapting your own game. I mean, it's got so much to do. Um, it's got so much to do with the amount of time and effort you put in and how much you really want it. It's all got to do with that passion. I mean, you can see with the way these guys celebrate, the way these guys get excited at events inside LAN areas. It's all great. And it just gets hyped up more and more the more you realize that you're actually improving and you're seeing direct results. Yeah, and very important. I think they've had a bit of time to rethink and they've almost had a tack pause given to them. And I think it's a great time just to realize where did things go right and where are things going wrong, and just make sure you apply. And that's not a good thing to start off with, but it's the way things have to go, and you just need to pick it up and carry on moving towards a direction that actually makes sense on what is created. Are you still there? Hello?
Microphone muted. Microphone activated. User in your channel timed out. User entered your channel.
Yes, I am back. Yeah, that was very important from his perspective, obviously, and just to get Pew back onto a bit of a break-even points. They want to make sure that they get that 1-2 rounds before the end. And now they're on the 4. I mean, they don't want to be losing another one because they've lost that losers round bonus,
Channel edited.
and they just want to make sure that they push themselves into that position and keep that split going. Force them to have a second player, make them doubt the fact you're going B if you are going to consistently go B to the point that you push. But they left themselves really tight there again. 8 seconds for the bomb plant, so they need to make sure that they get these things right. And if not, they're going to suffer it very quickly. And like I say, don't want to lose after getting that bonus taken away. Oh, well done to them. They made sure they added the extra aggression. They got that trade, and then followed up with a second kill. And even though it was opposite sides of the map, it was just a team trade. Nicely done by Spam, just to make sure he just shuts out anybody searching. I wouldn't have seen a good plan for Pew to be searching. Their economy isn't really that strong either, and they don't want to really be rebuying and forcing themselves into any given round being a round to completely reset. So well executed and got into sight as soon as possible. Didn't hesitate too much, and Mythic were only able to take one down. you're going to know that Mythic's going to be down to the wire when it comes to either the weaponry or that utility use. So you want to try and force that out early. And Pew have obviously tried to do that, and they've gotten one or two things being used. And there goes the third smoke or the second smoke from Spam. So it's good, but they're dropping players. They need to make sure they're going to peek here. Touch and go, and he takes the 50-50, but in the end of the day, comes out with a quicker trigger. Yeah, it's going to be an important retake for them. They need to try and get that early pick, and obviously with the utility still available, I mean, there's still a flame and a couple of smokes come on Pew, but well, they don't even need them, and they take out the last two Mythic players, Diva and 6-2. Just not really the scoreline Mythic will be hoping for if they get down to an 8-7, especially the way that they started off, only losing the 3 out of the first 10 basically. Or 2 out of the first 11. So yeah, I think it's something that they're going to need to just get this right. Obviously, as you can see, a terrible last buy from either team that would have really lost that if they had to lose 2 in a row. But Mythic being the only one to have that happen. So yeah, it's going to be some little bit of a disadvantage to start this last round of the first half. Yeah, well held by them, and Mythic had a good advance there, making sure that they were timing their pushes together. After coming out, obviously, in the apps area when came out, and that first frag wasn't followed up by any trade, which really gave them the nice advantage to back Synthetics, obviously getting one with a CZ at the cost of his life, but making sure that Junior had the 3 seats at that point, and now moving straight back towards that A, which is good, is the way that they distracted him towards that banana, keeping the split going. But well, Yatsi's going to make sure he keeps that instrumental play going as he gets one, but not the second. Limbs gets the trade, and now a 1 versus 1 with that 28 HP. Going to be a bit of a problem for him if he gets the lands the first shot, but he doesn't land anything as the Deagle doesn't need to go through the box, and Limbs finishes it off an 8-7 half, definitely favoring Pew at this point with their momentum. Yeah, it's going to be important as I was just going to refer to something different. Sorry, it's the basis of how we saw even this weekend and the last recent ups that have been played, the pistol round and the second half pistol round is so vital just for your momentum and the way that you can set this up. And I think that if Pew are able to make sure that they seal off this pistol, they really can start that momentum, that almost that roller coaster or bulldozer we saw that we thought that Mythic would start off with after they got those first 2 rounds. And there we go, straight out to the push and perfectly entered as Debo gets his first kill and the perfect entry into the site for the Mythic team. Yeah, it's one of those things that we often see as South African aggressive CS, and the way that it's always been a more focal point, uh, making sure that you have that right default or that right initial play to get things working on this map. Like we were saying earlier, as much as you can run out of ideas quickly if things don't work, you have the opportunity to really get the CTs questioning themselves. And the second you've got one or two players that are forcing an early rotate pick just due to the fact that it's a site that's found more breachable, you really are starting to rotate that additional time too early. Yeah, we time and time again speak about the importance of keeping that economy strong on CT. And if you can end up putting a gun or two away, keeping that armor, especially against that non AK round, I mean, you can build up a hell of a lot of and well, in this case, they're able to save 2 armors and 1 SMG, and they can go into this third round with a little bit more of a challenging factor. Obviously, the rest should go on a complete save just based on that armor bar, and we'll see maybe a little bit of cross-ups and hopefully setting up on the right sites. Obviously, you're taking that gamble, sometimes more educated than others, but in this case, not working out on that stack. Yeah, I can. I got you. Well, in the end of the day, that round went down to Mythic, and obviously, as we saw them have been able to enter into the site previously, not really much more of that type of resistance. They really put on the aggressive nature, and at correct points, the right times. Obviously, being in certain cases like here, not to lose their heads to the close range pistols, but and that is working out in their favor. Now being able to have that 4 rifle buy with that UM. Not a problem. They're getting full control of these apps, and really important play to make sure that you aspect of ensuring that you keep out of the sight. It's distracted for the majority of the round before you try to make anything else. As they're forcing those middle players just to split up a little bit, but not really pushing through simultaneously, and now forcing Synthetics into his lonesome, having to look in two directions, not really helping his support aspect. But Spam with the quick peek, and there we go. Yahtzee's down, but Avon's going to trade it back on the opposite, on the bottom side of this half of the map. And well, in the end of the day, Mythic have ended up with themselves a little bit of an advantage. Making sure that they had those 3 players arrive makes a massive difference, obviously, for these. Just being able to watch almost every angle, or at least every side that the entry come from. There's a little bit of utility left on those Pew players, and well, there we go. Slobber entering without need of any of that, and that could even help them even more so, as a Flame could push either Swaz or Spam out if bounced off the right area. And the timing of this with between Slobber is not going to be exactly right, as the setup is pretty much perfect for the entries. And nicely done again by Mythic, just to ensure that they keep 2 of those rifles, building themselves a nice economy and hitting themselves the 12th round. So something really important, obviously, that key advantage, and what Spam is really putting out up front there, 25 for 8. Making sure that at any given time he's pulling off some good rounds, and at 1.5 kills a round, it's making that initial entry really much easier.
Well, I'll be joining you shortly, as I'm about to get into the game, so maybe if you just want to carry on for maybe the next 30 seconds or so, I should be with you.
Problem. Importantly, they have stacked the right site. Is right, because if that weaponry comes straight through and the Flames in the right places, they're going to struggle to find themselves. We are finding a lot of the Mythic players singularly peaking. Synthetics, though, picking up somebody on the B, already causing distraction. Devo going to pick up another one in middle, so that forces Pew into an even more awkward position, as now they only have that lone player on B, all depending on how quiet he keeps. But it doesn't matter, as Synthetic is sticking to his basics, and something we definitely referred to a lot this weekend when it came down to players and teams guys will be seeing themselves up against. It's all about that finishing off with basics, the extraordinary and the all over and above. Those things come with the time and with the moments in the game, but it's so important to make sure that you stick yourselves to that understanding, that if you get your basics, you check your corners, you make sure you synchronize your bars, you make your movement, your plays together. It changes the entire dynamic of the way the teams gels together.
Yeah, and by the looks of it, it's been Mythic who's been pretty much dominating so far, as they seem to close out that anti-eco round fairly easily. And now once again, this is probably Pew's last opportunity to keep themselves in this map, which is probably something you wouldn't have been expecting yourselves to say so early in the first half, considering how well they did. So early in the second half, considering how well they actually did in that first half, picking up 7 rounds on the T side.
Yes, it was really something that they fought hard and they didn't give up. I mean, only started off really that well up to the 11th round, 12th round, and then it just started changing up a bit again. So it was good that they didn't just give it in, because that's how it is. But they unfortunately haven't got the best start off. Obviously, after losing the buy and the 3 pistol rounds, or saves at least. Scenario that you really want to enforce yourself to pick up this. I mean, we see the double orb coming up. I'm not so confident about that after seeing Mythic being so aggressive in the last 2 rounds. But in this end, it's all going to matter on that initial play and making sure that that cross is how Mythic had it in that first half.
45 seconds left here, but still some decent equipment to work with on Mythic. On the opposite side, Pew not going to have much. Now Limbs rotating over to B. Mythic still haven't completely dedicated themselves towards the A site, and looks like it's actually going to be the decision to go all the way back towards B. Synthetics has managed to get a forward position on Banana, but still going to have to wait as his team is lagging behind. Slob with the AWP here, holding a very tight angle, may be able to get a peek before the push even comes through, and that's exactly the case. And now Pew down to only 3 players. Slobber not able to actually land a second shot just, so that gives Mythic an opportunity to get into the site. Limbs is going to get one. 6-2 does reply, and Slobber's not on the highest HP either. Nice shot through the box here is going to do some huge damage to the planter, which is Swaz, and 4 versus 2 now, the retake coming through for Pew. Swaz is going to get 1. There is 1 kit, and that's on Yahtzee to work with for on Pew side. They also have 4 flashes, so certainly should be utilizing that before they make this retake. 6-2's pushed through the smoke here. Certainly not going to be expected by the Pew players, as it gets Nuke, who's running back to get the different angle. He pushes through once again, and he's going to take down Yahtzee as well. So 4 versus 2 now turned into a 2 versus 1. Avon, that's all that's remaining, and Mythic just shutting Pew out the sights every single opportunity that they try to push through, and that's all the back of a beautiful flank from 6-2.
Oh, very nicely done. As you were saying, that it looks like it could be the opportunity time or opportune time for Mythic to be able to start that hard press, that pressure point, and they almost slipped it through there, allowing Pew to get that advantage. It was 4v2, but that retake just wasn't there, and Pew wasn't able to get the right points. And a nice little Hail Mary play there by Mythic, obviously going through that smoke, and nicely done to make sure that they seal off and pretty much shut out a major high percentage chance that Pew is going to struggle to get another round after this.
Yeah, especially considering the bye here, and if they lose this, what their economy is going to be like in the next round. And this is going to be a huge confidence booster for Mythic. We said they struggled in that first half, but they've been flawless so far on their T side. And yeah, once again, good to see teams putting work in on Inferno, because I'm just been hoping it's not going to be that white horse like Nuke was when it came into the scene. Nobody played it. Still to this day, Nuke has very seldomly been played in South African scene, but we are starting to see it a bit more, so hopefully Inferno follows suit.
Yeah, and I think that we're seeing that the players are enjoying the maps more and more, and the more that they're playing them, the more they find nice peak spots, and obviously that just pushes in from the viewership and just watching local international games along the lines to ensure that you're seeing what's actually possible and what, so that all the teams that are focusing on the dashes, the overpass, they're not the early peak, and his gun sticking out, so Slobber does go down, and now Pew even in more of trouble as they drop one of their weapons. MS going down there, and that's what we're saying. It's all about those different map plays and trying to get away from those positions that people are playing multiple times, the multiple repeated times of the same map, and now spreading it out into these ones.
Yeah, a little bit more exciting across the board, and Mythic got themselves onto the B side. The problem was Slobber, the only B player, and he's playing such an aggressive angle. He gets taken down, and Mythic are able to waltz themselves into the B side without any more resistance. So 4 versus 2 now, and I think we can apply a junk status rating to this game.
Putting out full economical effect here, aren't you?
Is that too soon, or is it valid?
I felt a little internal pain.
It's okay, that means it's a bit too soon then, still a little bit emotional.
But I think if you had to walk up to Pew right now and say to them, like, what's your economy like, bro? I don't think they'd be very impressed. How's your economy doing, man? How's this?
Yeah, well, Mythic now finding themselves at 15th, and they've gone on to pick up 7 rounds in a row on this T side, and that's going to be a pretty good confidence booster going into the second map. Now, it's always a difficult thing to come back from in a best of 3 once you've dropped the first map so convincingly, but of course needs to be something that you're capable of, as Pew looks like that's going to be the case here.
It's one of those things that's only way that you can ever win is if you come back from losing, if you aren't winning at the beginning. And we're going to see this initial peak, and Yatsik being able to do a little bit of a shimmy around, and Nukem going to pick up another one. So keeping their hopes alive, making sure that they at least aren't giving up until the final whistle. We always speak about that 15th round being sometimes a bit of a nightmare for some teams to get into that position to just roll it over the top, and you can end up doing some silly things just on the basis thinking that you've got such an advantage, and before you know it, you're on a double save after losing one, which is 3 rounds. They're hitting double digits, and one more like that, and that's all that it means. And look at this, things going a little bit in their favor with Pew pushing through a scenario where the smoke is actually playing in their favor, just doing a bit of spray down, working, and only 2 Mythic players are actually initial after really not much engagement from the Mythic team themselves.
Yeah, they've been both shooting through the smoke now, so Pew full aware of where the remaining 2 players' positions are. Mythic would love to try and get a bit of damage done here so they could harm the economy of Pew, but not going to be the case as they only find the 1 frag. So Pew coming back into it, and yeah, you spoke about not being able to complete it at the final whistle, and that was also a bit of a case of making the silly mistakes. So Mythic need to make sure they don't find themselves in that position, because like you said, they could very quickly end up with a bit not so strong economy and be forced into that eco. So they're going to have to stay away from those silly mistakes like pushing by themselves through middle and through apps, no opportunity for their teammates to find the refrag, and well, Pew find their first round off the back of it. So the longer that Pew can go on to frustrate Mythic in this game, the better job they'll be doing them, or the better chance they'll be giving themselves in that second map, rather.
Yep, that's exactly the name of the game. Keep that momentum away from the team. If they get I say a fluke round or a more of a round that's just one of those that you shouldn't do.
Oh, okay. I guess so. We can gather from that result and have a look at the second map. It's Nuke. So I mean, from what we were discussing, that's pretty exciting. And two fairly similar maps. So both, well, they used to be, historically they were fairly similar maps, and in fact they've kind of changed in how they've both opened up towards the T side more. So still remaining a little bit similar, and maybe we could see Mythic continuing with their domination, as they were able to just blow Pew right out of the water on their CT side. And Nuke is the same, in that if you're not capable of just holding the basic setup on the map, then you're just going to lose round after round. It's just one of those things. You don't win rounds by accident. It's not one of those maps where you just get lucky with a few flags. It's one of those maps where you really have to be calculated and make sure that you're not giving up any important pieces of map control without making sure that it's not going to be used against you, or you're making sure that you're not going down as the CT side and giving up the place that you're covering. Because, like I said, with such important pieces of map control, as soon as you do lose one player on the CT side, the terrorists can just run rampant.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly it. It's really comes down to that point that once the T's can get themselves an advantage on that roof area in heaven side, I mean you can go all the way around, and if you start getting into those controlling positions, never going to see these guys coming. I mean, you can do a triple smoke. We saw time and time again this weekend. DC, one of the favored teams on this map, and they ended up doing brilliant smokes, full wall, and you create such havoc not knowing whether they pushed through, whether the two have pushed through, whether they haven't at all, whether they're climbing onto the roof, are they pushing on the inside. And as soon as you stop, like you say, stop looking at your directional play, or excuse me, your points in the map where your team is obviously relying on you to do, that causes such havoc for the rest of the team, especially if a player drops from behind, because it's so difficult to see what that position is, and being able to recover those 2 or 3 entry points at the same time, it just ends up being a little bit of a dog show. Then
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Mythic versus Pew Best of 3 Community Shield Cup. As well, we just witnessed Mythic decimating Pew in the first map, and well, Adam, do you think Pew are going to be capable of bringing it back in this one?
Yeah, this is obviously, like we were saying, it's a similar concept map with regards to the way that you can rotate and just the process of being more of a recently adopted map into the pool of selected maps by South African teams rather than initial automatic ban. So I think that Pew just need to make sure that they hold their own angles. They need to make sure they get that positioning right and make sure that they don't over-rotate too quickly as well. And just be sure, when you're going to retake with the 5 simultaneous pushes, stick to this basis. Before we can do anything, Mythic are already into this A bomb side, and they've taken down 2, as Yahtzee is the only one to really put back any firepower, as the third for Pew already drops down, so not looking as great as I was hoping, or they would be, to bring that comeback into the play and force us into that third map.
Yeah, and you feel like this pistol round was really important for them to complete this to complete the comeback here. Well, I say complete the comeback, but I mean rather start the comeback, especially considering how the first map was closed out with Mythic being so dominant. For them to come into the second map now and pick up that T-side pistol so convincingly is quite a does quite some damage to the team's confidence. And I think we could see in one of those situations once again where we just see Mythic with a T-side that's too hot to handle for Pew Gaming.
And if that's the case on this map, it's going to be really difficult for them to be able to hold up that second half. I mean, you don't want that situation where you're having to fight off against CTs on a CT map. Mythic are really using that aggressive nature. They're just trying to bulldoze through Pew as they were doing in that last half of that first map. But if Nuke can do anything, he'll stop the run straight into that mouth and making sure. But if you're going to be pushing, be careful of pushing too early and too lone, because as Yahtzee has done previously, doing so well on that Pew team, it really is important that they don't do things. I mean, Avon here and there would as well do something where he would just try and get through those smoky areas to get into the back, and it works 1 out of 3 or 4 times. That really doesn't end up assisting the team, especially not when you had that one-man advantage when you're on that save in CT.
Mythic have split themselves up quite a lot here. The two players along with the Bong have gotten into secret. Synthetics on railing, he hasn't managed to get too far up here, so Mythic not 100% convincing so far yet in this well, anti-force round, really, as it's still a 4 versus 4 with 40 seconds left. Mythic leaving themselves with quite a lot to do here. They don't have too much information nor the map control, besides they've gotten themselves into B. That's pretty much what they've got going for them. So 6-2 does get 1 as that opens up the B side, so now things going in their favor. So in the end, Pew not going to be able to cause any shenanigans as Mythic do start cleaning up when it matters.
Yeah, you got to create that element of control and get those post plants in nicely, and Mythic did so. Obviously, if Pew were able to pick up that AK, well, in essence, it's actually a 2 versus 2, and they're going to go for this as at least the attempt to make sure that the one player drops, not in any means but in vain, but in this point of view, the Mythic team held out well, and making sure that Pew were able to get back into that and not taking that AK away from them was also a very vital position.
Yeah, but Pew did fairly well there in that force buy. They got the 3k and inflicted quite a lot of damage on the Mythic economy, so they're going to force up some rebuys, and that's going to prompt a few more AKs to come out here. So Mythic, of course, really not much to work with, and they're going to be pushing straight outside here to see if they can get something done. Quite a few Mythic players here to offer some resistance, and that's going to be the exact case as they shut them out with the 3k. Not much damage going in the way of Pew regardless, so Mythic just going to shut it out as expected here, and it's going to be all about that first buy round. Are Pew able to prove to themselves that they're capable of keeping Mythic out of this? So far, it's just been sheer aggression from Mythic on this T side. They've just same as on Inferno. They haven't wasted any time in their executions. They're just really relentless and hitting Pew before they even have time to set up their defenses.
That's perfectly correct. I mean, it's the demonstration of the way that they got that T side right last time, and I think that's that little bit of a break that we had when Synthetics, I think, was rejoining. It was just a moment that everybody could reset, and in the end of the day, Pew reset nicely, but didn't really finish it off. And now Mythic are kind of jumping around corners. I'm not sure how Yahtzee didn't hear him coming. He really wasn't making any effort not to sound like an elephant. And at the end of the day, it's these little rounds that if you make that extra damage, that impact, like that last round, you've got 3 guns down. All it takes is 1 or 2 of those. And in this case, it's going to be important for that buy round to make sure that they can hold it. And you don't want to be 3-0 down or 4-0 down after a bar in a CT-sided and favored map, especially when they are on such a rampage already.
Yeah, like we said, they're gonna have to put a stop to it before it gets out of control. As if Mythic start tasting blood, then it may be a little bit too late. So here's going to be that round we were speaking of. Not a single Mythic player going down that round, so they got all their guns that they bought up in that previous round. Whether Devo is going to keep that Mac 10 or not is going to be interesting, as Shocks would tell him to keep it. But he's not Shocks, so he's going to go for the AK-47. And just a little bit more powerful, of course, in the exchange. So Pew, the equipment is really dire. They only have the smokes, no incendiaries, which is an important tool in the CT side of Nuke. And have a look, Mythic carrying on with this relentless aggression. Synthetics has gotten in a forward position here. They're not going to expect him to be here. So with this UMP, he already find himself a frag, and he spots out the second. He's going to get taken down though, so Yahtzee evening it out, but Spam, he's gotten into the secret area. So Mythic just getting all over the Pew players, like I said before, they're even capable of setting up their defenses, and they've kind of gotten all the way around him here. Pew can't really rotate to support their teammates because they're not actually particularly sure on where the hits is coming through. Yahtzee does a good job here on A, finding himself the second now, so kind of the lone light at the moment, and he's going to get taken down, so that's a problem. Devo also getting taken down, so trades back and forth here. Nice patience here from Swaz, eventually finding the frag, getting a little bit close there, and that means that Nukem now remains in a 1 versus 2. The bomb, he may be able to actually get in a favorable position here if Spam pushes through, but Spam just offering a nice smoke for his teammate to get down the vent. So nice little play there between the two players, not leaving anything to chance, and that's going to allow them to now get into the B bomb site and get that bomb down.
Very important plant there from Mythic. I mean, you don't want to be losing that 1 versus 2 play advantage when you're able to force it, or if Yes was able to force it into 2 1v1s. The flame is in, so it's going to flame him out to get the smoke out in time, but it's not in by any means needed to create any damage, as Mythic makes sure they shut that out. And well, from that perspective, I'm actually a little bit disappointed from the way that Pew approached that round. They had the play obviously from Mythic running into the hut, and the second they got into the hut, you saw him by the feet. You didn't see necessarily him exit, and they had both players on railings. They really could have had a situation where they forced up a 2-on-1 and not just the singular peek. And obviously, with the fact that Mythic were carrying 1 SMG, it was really right into that play of what they wanted them to do. And once they opened up that, and it was a situation that they were able to just pull those straight through like this into outside. Newcomb's down, the one player that survived last round, at least to the last point. And it's going to be important because now they're going to lose that control of the map again, and it's just going to be that rotation around rotation, trying to figure out where they've gone.
Yeah, and that's what we were talking about things maybe just getting too far out of their control, and the scoreline is certainly one of those aspects. If the scoreline starts becoming constantly playing on your mind, it's going to make it difficult to keep your concentration, as we see Mythic bringing back the advantage in their favor. Up against the full eco round, Yahtzee up close with the 5-7, getting some more work done. So Yahtzee seems to be doing a great job here. Synthetics getting slobber, so able to salvage the situation, as limbs is all that's remaining.
Yeah, and well, as expected, I think on a round when you're going to get those pistols, obviously something that Mythic wouldn't want to have lost too many players. They did take the 2 down on perspective for Pew, and they might even get a 3rd, which they do. Now, economical damage consistently in the end of the day could end up leveling you out these rounds, so you don't want to make sure that you're suffering in a point where you're not getting your full utilities, you're not getting your full volume out of the way you're pushing. And if you're able to not set that up correctly because of that lack, just 1 or 2 rounds, and you can find yourself on the opposite end of that 8-7 as quickly as you've got up to this 5 rounds.
Well, that's kind of similar to what happened on the first map. So Mythic find themselves that 5th round now, and they have quite a juggernaut of an economy now building up, so going to be able to buy up in quite a few consecutive rounds, even if they go on to lose them. So Pew But that just means that the misery is piling on top of misery here, as just more and more ice for them to try and break through.
Yeah, it is that situation that you're seeing yourself in the back of a 0-5 lineup or 0-5 score when you're needing to get that first pick. And there we go, Nukem opening it up. The push slightly delayed there from Span. The flash wasn't long enough on him to be able to force that blind shot. But Nukem held his own, held his ground, and just went with the shot. I guess sometimes you just got to make things work if they're not working. And if you can get that initial play and make sure that you aren't fighting off for the position. Because there we go, Swaz has already leveled it out. And then you're in that situation again of having to rotate. You've lost the 3 players at least that were outside. You would hope there would be less, but in this case they're already taken full control of downstairs and going to make their way into that B bomb site, where they've ended up favoring just because of the fact that Mythic were holding a perfect angle on that outside area, or being able to trade quickly inside and then having to force them way back down because of that team support that they had up top.
Yeah, heading towards B now. Swaz gets Yahtzee, and Pure could put quite a foot of emphasis on this B defense. Limbs is in vent, and he's got support from Nukem with the AWP, who lands a good shot onto Swaz to even things out once again, and that's going to allow Limbs to come through now. He gets a frag as well, so looking good here are Pew. We're not letting the frags get too far out of their favor, and that's going to leave Synthetics alone now in a 1 versus 2, and now he's also been spotted out, so his position known. He has got the bomb, so maybe an opportunity for him to get up to the A site here where there is no Pew players, and that's going to be the case. So going to be able to get the bomb down here, and with the Pew players and their current positions, he could get himself into a decent post-plant position. They're not going to be able to get up here too quickly, so he could get back to outside if he wanted to, and he's going to choose to go to radio room. So going to look for 2 1 versus 1s here to deny Pew getting themselves the first round, and it's going to get a good opportunity here to get the first one to Slobber. That flashbang is going to give him a good idea of where the second player is coming from, so he is going to force that player now to get pushed through if he's going to want to get that frag. Nukem without a kit, not going to have an opportunity to get that ninja defuse, so he's going to try to get the bait, but Synthetics to the wiser, he's not biting, so somehow he comes out on top of this 1 versus 2 clutch without even having to get that much work done. See, Nukem is going to get the frag in the end, but like I said, not enough time, and bomb going to explode. So Mythic in the end picking up all of the buy rounds in this half and not giving Pew any room to get into this one.
No, they really are putting on that pressure, and that's also the importance here. I mean, you are in the day playing for a really large result, and you want to play for a really large pool. And in this case, it's an entry into that Masters event. And now you don't want that situation that you're 6-0 up and you're relaxed. They did one of those rounds on an Inferno as Mythic, and they gave it away by just doing 1 or 2 extra peaks they shouldn't have. And you don't want that scenario. You want to seal this out now. If you're going to push it through 6-0, get that energy going. You've got 1. You haven't got the full map yet, so make sure you finish it off and push it through. And the unnecessary little pushes without the flashes, that's where it can end up costing you.
Well, they've managed to get the advantage here. Once again, a nice AWP shot from Nukem. So finally, Pew getting some good advantage in the round now, and Mythic this time haven't gotten to an advantageous map position. Oh, Synthetics with some tunnel vision. He's not spotting out that head. It's too late, but it doesn't make a difference. Yahtzee doesn't land his shots, and Synthetics comes out with the frag. So making something out of nothing there, and with so much time left on the clock, Mythic may be able to get themselves back into this one. Still quite a few pieces of equipment to work with, but Pew have got 2 players on the outside area here, so Synthetics could run into some resistance if this is where he chooses to continue going forward.
Yeah, well held by Pew though, not to over-aggress now, and just make sure that you're holding your angles. They had a couple of good crosses outside, and Synthetics would have found himself in a little bit of trouble, I think, if he had to try and push there into the lows area and make himself a hazard to the definition of trying to figure them out. But the time was on their favor. Now, obviously, a move into one of the sites is important, but with that hold they have, from Pew's perspective, they know that ramp's completely clear, so is outside, so they're going to wait for at least a massive quick push, and here it comes.
Yeah, Slobber gets the first one. Nukem missing another shot. That's going to allow Swaz to get the frag, but he does take him down, so not going to cost them anything too dire. So Pew find themselves the first frag, and Mythic, their economy did get chipped away in that previous round I spoke about earlier, so that means that they're not going to have as much to work with, but still enough. So Pew in that reset territory once again. They're going to have to make sure that they pick up some rounds back to back here and start getting something going on the CT side, because if they do go down in this one, then Mythic could really run away with it, and it's going to be the outside emphasis from them once again, where Nuke has been getting some decent control with the AWP when he's got it. Wall of smokes coming down, so Spam getting across to the red box initially, and more smokes to follow to allow him to get across towards Secret and his teammates to follow. Bomb still being left towards the back, but Mythic gotten themselves into lowers here, and it's at quite a decent time in the round as well, still very early on, which means that Pew are going to have to start sending some rotations earlier than they would have liked.
Yeah, that's exactly what we were speaking about, those early rotations of the forced confusion, and Mythic have been very good at that and making sure that they're using the full advantage of that aggression and not just being unnecessarily upfront and in the face. And if 6-2 can get into the back here, I mean, Limbs is not checking this at all. I don't think they really anticipate something like as daring as this just yet. But in the end of the day, when things are working, then you got to go for everything and see what else you can pull out from the cracks of the additional cutoff, because as you were saying, that perfect opening for the Mythic team, making sure that if they can put that nail into the coffin, forcing a scenario where they don't have cash, the loser's bonus is gone. It's all up to that.
Well, this that looks like exactly what's going to be the case here. 6-2 with a really nice play there individually, just picking up the double kill at the end, and Mythic coming back with the buy round. So Pew's economy in a pretty horrible position, and they're going to go for the force buy here. So they, I think it's too early in the half to be having that mindset that the game is too far gone. Maybe it was somebody buying a little bit too early, but they're going to have a buy once again, and this could really allow Mythic to solidify themselves in this first half.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly it. They're getting right up in that perspective of being able to give them up to a 10th round before being able to buy up again. And, it's not that easy already to hold these angles the way that Mythic are using that full aggressive nature, the full aggression mode. I mean, they're pushing from all different sides and angles and shapes. So it's really important to make sure that you don't put yourself at any disadvantage. I mean, this lowest control is really vital here, and Nuke going to peek it. He does catch D.Va off though, and that's a very important pick for Pew, just to make sure that they don't get a loss of control over the map again, and just allow Pew into that, or sorry, Mythic, should I say, into that scenario of forcing them to look at multiple directions at one time.
Well, that's exactly been the case. I mean, they've come out of nowhere all the way from behind, and somehow they're making this this force buy work. They haven't even dropped a single player yet. As I say, that Spam gets one. He gets a second as well, so somehow making things work here, but he is going to get taken out. Just too many people for him to deal with at once. And Pew are going to pick up their second round, and like I said, off the back of a force is pretty interesting. On the same side, that puts Mythic's economy in a situation where they're going to have to force buy now as well. So all of a sudden, Pew with some small window of opportunity to get back into this half, but if it's actually not a jointed buy at all from the side of Mythic, D.Va goes up for the full investment, so does Swaz, but the other three players don't invest at all, so they're going to go straight into the A side off the back of that. A good incendiary is going to keep them out of huts, but they're going to push through Squeaky nonetheless. Yahtzee gets one, but he does get taken down. Tech9 trying to get some more work done, not going to be the case yet. Slobber getting forced back, and he's actually going to fall to his death, so that's huge, because that means that avenue of heaven has now been taken away. Fortunately enough, his teammate is close enough to respond, but he runs into the fire and the flames, so both of the players kind of costing themselves their lives there, as Nuke now makes his way around 1 HP remaining, and this would just be too devastating for Pew if they do go on to lose this, considering how they got themselves at the situation. And Nukem's also going to commit suicide, so Pew really just not giving themselves any opportunity in this round based off pure suicide. Avon gets one, but he's been left high and dry by his teammates. He's going to try and get out of here with his weapon, but Synthetics is going to be hunting very close behind with this Tech9, running Ringer Rosie behind the containers here. He gets one. He actually gets a second as well. He's not even going to go down to the bomb, so going to be able to go into the next round with that rifle, but Mythic still coming out with the round.
Yeah, really unfortunate. People are forcing themselves into a 7 versus 3 scenario where they're actually ending up doing more damage themselves than the opposition. But in when things really aren't working out, they seem to cease all forms of hope. But you need to put that kind of thing behind you. That's really a fluke scenario. 2 drops to the death, 1 in a flame. It's just the way that things crumble. And if you can pick it up and turn it around, you're really going to put Mythic into that position where I think that they would lose that element of being careful and probably do something unnecessary. But in that end of the day, it's all about that push, and already Pew on their back foot with that forced buy up and not as strong as they would like for sure.
Yeah, and they force up once again into this round as they saw that they were capable last time, but Mythic just not making the same mistakes, keeping some strong control on outside. Synthetics picking up a 2k, and only 2 players remaining on the side of Pew. Also going to go down as Limbs, so Mythic making quick work of this, and yeah, just like I said at the beginning of this half, it's that exact case of Mythic just being too powerful on the T side. It's regardless of the buy up, it's just they've got that the ability to find those snap kills, and map control is just far too important on Nuke to be giving up with the sites being as difficult as they are to retake. With Mythic getting the bomb down so regularly, it's just Pew not finding themselves in favorable positions.
No, not at all. It's definitely a bit of a sore point, I think, with regards to the way that the cracks are showing in Mythic's aggression. They really haven't taken many slow rounds since they started doing that in Inferno. I mean, it just started this snowball perfect, and Pew are, if not finding themselves falling off of ladders, they're in a situation where they're losing a player and now having to force buy up where you're not going to get anything strong. You've won the 1 round 2 rounds ago, so you've lost your bonus already 3 rounds before that. Force yourself into a 1-1-1 opposite winning to losing, and yeah, it's just unfortunately a bit of an economical disaster, and it's going to be really important for them to be able to string 5 or 6 early rounds as T's if they want to do any damage to the score. After this round, you're already 10-5 on a more predominantly CT favored map, at least from the history of it and just from the amount that's been played in SA.
Yeah, there's no arguing that this is still CT map. I mean, although it's maybe like an 8-7 or a 9-6, one of those scenarios, it still does favor the CT side. So Pew, not really any excuse to find themselves in this situation. Nuke, he doesn't have any money to work with in this round, so I mean, just seems like it may be too far gone at this point for Pew. Spam getting 1, getting a second. He too has been impressive in this best of 3 series so far. Top fragging, going forward now, going to find the 3k even, so good spray control there to get that. And Pew, 2 players remaining, still not even managed to get amongst the ranks. You have the Mythic players getting up close and personal. His Avon's also not going to work, so in the end just not able to find anything that works, and I think that's been the problem, is just Mythic maybe shutting Pew down in everything that they try. So we're going to see another full buy coming out here from Pew once again, the Nova, the Org, so really just trying different things here to shut down the Mythic momentum train.
That momentum train really has started to gather some speed, and yeah, Pew are going to find themselves in a very difficult situation, having to fight for their lives in this matchup, and obviously making sure that they're really going to have to steal that pistol, otherwise it's going to be trouble. And at the moment, they're not even doing too much, except that Orc does come out in a little bit of a positive play. Maybe even a second can come through. It does, and now an advantage for them. The last time they had this advantage, they didn't throw it away too easily, but as I say that, they're already down to that disadvantage, and well, a shoddy in the play could cause some havoc if they get into the line of it. But look at this, maybe in time from behind, but all that matters is whether the timing falls in with at least 1 or 2 players. He doesn't get the kill, but he gets it on the second one and does nuke him, and now he does put himself into a position to be able to take this back for Pew. Synthetics though has a little bit of a disadvantage, and that's the fact that, well, the bomb doesn't actually matter.
Oh man,
That positioning.
how was that timing though? Because he did kind of check it, and if Synthetics, yeah, exactly, not even half a second, it's 13 milliseconds to be precise according to Adam. Anyway,
13.
okay, well, Mythic doing very well once again to pick up that buy, and Pew just forcing into it once again. So I mean, it's not even a case of them having any equipment to work with, so I think they've kind of written off their chances at this stage, really just trying to rely on the gun battles, and that hasn't been working for them, so you just don't fancy their chances in that regard, as Mythic continuing forward, throwing some nice smokes outside, and it's just been the default setup for them really, is just go outside instantly, whether it's one player or two player that go there. Generally it's been Swaz with at least maybe one player supports on the silo, could be 6-2, and they've been holding it out really nicely. There Devo getting one, or Swaz gets brought down. Nuke able to get a second. So speaking about players having an influence, he's been one of those players on Pew who's been keeping them in it. 3 versus 3 now. Spam's still outside. He's going to take down Nukem eventually, so that means that the mouth player has now been brought down. Synthetics is on the side. The bomb hasn't been able to get there just yet there, so that's going to allow PewPew some time to rotate, and Yassi's going to go straight towards heaven, so he might be able to get here and if not deny the plant, maybe get a frag. Going to get taken down himself though, so Pew just not able to find any avenue of entry into this retake once again. Like I said, once Mythic has been getting control of the bomb site, it's kind of been the end game for Pew, even if they have had some sort of man advantage.
Yeah, the biggest problem is that they're having that situation where it's very rarely that they do have a man advantage, and obviously with their lack of utilities and the fact that they're buying no longer more than 4 strong weaponry, you know, that pattern of spray and to be able to shut them down before they get those sites is almost null and void. They really need to try and make sure that they would shut it out and just practice on the CT just to make sure that you've got that level of control and understand the placement of the map to an effective level without being able to be forced into your corners.
Well, once again, Mythic, they find the frags initially, but still they get shut down once the round starts to get to some even stages. They're just not able to get the really important ones, and Mythic off the back of it, I mean, Spam's gone all the way through, he's coming through just wasting no time. The bomb has been left behind, so Lim's now in a 1 versus 2 opportunity to get Pew the final round of the half with control of the bomb. Has some sort of opportunity, but still quite a lot of work to be done. 6-2 and him back to back. Spam coming around the corner now, so he's going to have to find some pretty quick frags here. And he's going to come out now, so a good time to peek for him to get one. 6-2 is going to be aware of his position now, but he plays it quite smartly by going back and around. So 6-2 actually fairly confused as to what's going on here. Limbs is not committing to it. He's quite happy after getting the first frag to change his position up altogether. Go outside, so great game sense there coming through from Limbs, and just wish we had seen more of this game so far. 6-2 is really confused. He's got absolutely no clue where Limbs has gone. Really nice player, Limbs. 6-2 is going to have no idea where he is, so he's going to have to get the bomb and go straight onto the A site. Not going to have any time to get onto B, and Limbs, he's clearly a little bit uncertain as to where the player's at. 6-2 may even go down the venture, and that's going to be the case. Limbs is waiting patiently. 6-2 with the knife out is going to get taken down. Like I said, not even remotely expecting that, and Pew find themselves their third.
Yeah, very nicely done by Limbs. Unfortunate that seeing obviously this at that point where the game sense is being used a lot more, and it's something that you can pick it up. It's somewhere where you can start your momentum, start chipping it away at something like this. In the end of the day, even if you drop the map or you drop the matchup, you can take a lot out of being able to play more rounds and just ensuring you're keeping yourself alive in it. It was good to see that he is showing the full remorse of, regardless of score, I'm going to show you that this round is going to be mine, and just get yourself a little bit of a consolation round after losing runs that you shouldn't have. But straight into that A bomb site is Pew, as they're getting taken down as fast as they possibly can walk into the site. Mythic takes down all 5 before more than one player drops, and well, that seems like it's a bit of the nail in the coffin more than anyone.
Yeah, I'm not sure that there is that statement is more applicable to a situation than now, as Mythic just shutting out that last little glimmer of hope for Pew, as they get 4 SMGs, 1 Mag 7 on Spam, so Pew with a pretty impossible job ahead of them, but that's not going to take them out of it just yet, as they go straight into the A site with the Tech 9s. Diva gets 1, Spam gets 1 as well, so bit of an opportunity here. Frags being traded, but still not able to come out on top. Like I said, they find the initial 2 frags, but not able to complete the equation. Swaz coming from behind, and I just feel like that's kind of been the way the game has gone through, is Pew's gotten the initial 1 or 2 frags, but the remaining Mythic players have just been too strong and powerful for the Pew players to get back into it. So Mythic now with a fairly unassailable lead, I would say.
Yeah, I'd say so. So I'd say that it's very much at a point where Pew are now just looking for anything they can do to either finish it off or just carry it through. And as they do that, they're just going to rush down into the ramp. They're going to go through the smoke and not even worry about it, because at this point they might even pick up something, and they do, which is an important start. But yeah, Mythic, when we saw them on that Inferno, they really had that hold that was working well when they were winning 2v3s. They were having the clutch rounds. They were really playing well. And in that perspective, you could see that if they got a really strong tee off, they were in trouble. And Mythic are really, there we go, tearing holes apart. But at least Pew in this case are still not giving up, getting that extra frag back, and in this case just by a hair. They're one play up. But before I can say that, they're really leveled out and at a disadvantage. And there we go, the 15th round already in the hands of Mythic, as Pew are unfortunately, as you say, have been maintaining the same way through from that beginning.
Yeah, that's just devastating. I mean, if it wasn't bad enough to now lose a 2 versus 2, what was that? Was a 3 versus 2 in favor of them at one stage? They even had control of the site, and Mythic still just jumping around with SMGs coming out on top. So Pew, as I understand it, with this community shield, it's lose 2 games and you're eliminated in the earlier stages. So Pew going to be dropping down to the lower bracket on the back of this. So not all hope is lost yet, but they are going to be playing from an unfavorable position. But now already a man down, and Mythic with considering themselves on the precipice of closing out this best of.
They're really close to that end, and they mustn't forget again, just to make sure they finish it off. And don't not to get frustrated with yourselves. You don't want to come out from such a great performance and have to rely or worry about bad things that have happened. And in the end of the day, Pew are going to more than likely pick up this round if the kills aren't picked up too late. And well, in the end of the day, Yahtzee just doing a little bit of roaming, unnecessarily a bit away from the bomb site, not really doing too much favor for his team, and now puts himself in a position that actually could have lost the game because of that move and not allowing the team to play altogether. But it's all going to be based on that shotgun, which we know can do quite a lot of damage from that close range point.
Yeah, Swaz is going to be able to get through the door, which is open, yeah, and he finds the frag. So if he gets onto the bomb now, yeah, he's got it. He's managed to get the defuse in time. So once again, like you said, Pew in one of those unwinnable positions, but somehow they do manage to throw that advantage away. So Mythic going to come out on top, 2-0 advantage in their favor. So they'll be very happy with that, and quite a good showing from them going forward. I think in the rest of this event, they've showing that they mean business.
Yes, no, certainly so. We said that right in the beginning that we expected Mythic is going to have a very strong showing in today's game, and they really put down the gauntlet. It came down to that second map, and they made sure that they weren't going to, by any means, even play around with 5 or 6 rounds. They just wanted to finish it off and get right on top of it. You got their tees out and really showed us what they're capable of, and I think that they're going to have a tough game against BNR in their next matchup. But like you said, PewPew down to that losers bracket, and a very tough battle to come out from there.
And we'll be bringing you that match tomorrow night, 8 o'clock standard time, so join us for that, and be sure to get back to us what you thought. I know that the stream was a little bit laggy tonight, but we're going to try and tweak a few things to make sure that tomorrow we have got it running at the best possible quality. So from me, guys, I bid you guys a farewell. I hope you have a great evening, and I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow.
Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great evening. Shout for listening, and see you soon.